Nope.
Okay.
Not here.
Okay, thank you. Additions to the agenda. I've heard it from a couple, so.
I did too.
I know that we have comments on Public Works and the barbecue pit at the park.
Mhm.
Okay, any other additions?
Cemetery building,
Okay,
and this may be in your mayor comments, but the contract with Sunshine.
it wasn't, but it can be,
Okay, I'm fine with this. I just want to know where we're at.
sure.
And I also want to know where we're at on the bid for looking at well number 1.
That is on my comments.
Okay.
Okay. All good?
I don't have anything.
Okay. Okay, the first item is the surplus of the old vacuum truck. The last time we were here, it was kind of mentioned that we wanted to put it up for sale, and do you guys have a mechanism that you want to do that? Sealed bid, just put it out there and highest bidder or highest price or set a price and take the best offer we get?
You can put it on that Facebook marketplace. That seems like a good way to
Yeah.
sell stuff.
Okay, well, I'm just looking for a direction from you guys.
Don't we
have to
do we
declare
have to bid it?
surplus.
We would have
Get rid of
to,
it.
yeah, we can declare it surplus and then put it up for bid, but do we, has Ken had any input on like what's this, is there,
Yes.
what is that truck
Ken-
potentially good for?
Ken's idea, if we were to keep it, is to take the entire vacuum tank and all the tanks, basically clean off the back of it, salvage what we can, which would probably be a pump or two, and then put a flatbed on it. The cheapest way to do it is to put a flatbed on it with a number of polyethylene large water tanks on it, and basically use it as a water truck. It would be the cheapest way to do it. He wants to basically have a mechanism to carry large bodies of water around through the city so he can wash the streets down and do stuff like that. When pushed, it's like, how much do you think it's gonna cost and how much time do you think it's gonna take? And it was well into the thousands of dollars to do so, and it'd take a long time to get it done. So, for me, I'm not real interested in having another hangar queen here when we might be able to find other solutions.
Is it the vac system of the truck that's faulting?
No, it's,
Is the
I
engine
mean,
good?
the engine, the mechanics of the truck itself are fine. It's that the tank, the big tank where all the stuff gets drawn into, is old, it's tired, it's rusting out. It's so thin, it's really not weldable anymore. There's mechanisms, there's mechanics within that have to do with the big, I don't know what, plunger, if you will, that pushes all the material out. It gets out of alignment, it's knocked some of the guides off, which are almost impossible to find. You'd have to probably have them machined. And then they've been using it basically it holds 300 gallons of water. They've basically been using it to go up with 300 gallons of water, open the spigot and let it pour out. They can't even use it as a sprayer anymore. The pump works fine, but the water tank for fresh water is so rusty that it goes through the pump and immediately clogs up the nozzle of whatever you're trying to spray. It's just tired. It's just, like I said, the whole mechanics on the back of it, or all the tanks and all that kind of stuff, is just not in good shape. So somebody who has the time and the resources to basically treat it as a chassis is about what it's worth at this point.
And to have a custom built flatbed or even find an old one and put on it, you're looking at a lot of money. And then
Yeah,
a
and none
tank
of
to
the,
go on it
yeah,
too.
and none of the other stuff that we have down there already that's laying around is not gonna fit. without a lot of customization and welding on and what have you.
Well, I would move to surplus it to the highest bidder.
Is that a motion?
Mhm.
Okay, we have a motion on the table?
Second.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Not here. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. It's 5-0. We'll get that started. Budget amendment. I know this shows as an action item, there's really nothing to do except for we've been talking about, we're gonna need to start doing a budget amendment. Yes, we are, so I guess I need to know, we probably need to have budget workshop planned. And this is gonna fall into some of the stuff I've gotta talk to that in the mayor's comments as well, so. I think May's pretty beat up. It'd be nice if we could work on it through June and then have something to approve in July as far as an amendment for 2025, and then obviously setting ourselves up for 2026. Sound fair? Okay. Do we wanna try to set a time in June right now? Like the third week in June?
I'd say before the meetings is fine with me.
Before the first council meeting in June?
You think it's one meeting worth, or how much time do you think?
I think it's one meeting worth. I mean, if I get enough stuff prepared and out to you guys.
So come in before the meeting,
Do an hour early.
yeah,
You can do it hourly.
It's fine by
it's
me.
fine, time works for me.
Okay. June meeting 6. Does that work for you, David?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Sounds good.
We'll be fertilizing.
At 6.
I don't know what day it is. I just know it's the first council meeting.
The 11th.
Is it the 11th?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Wages, same kind of thing. We kind of, to go through the budget at the end of the year last year, the city employee wages were effectively frozen and there was no COLA given. I would like to revisit that with you guys as a council on what can be done. Things have not, I mean, inflation just started slowing down, but it's still been an issue. So I guess I'm asking for you guys to take some time and do some research and look at what you feel is comparable rates for the kind of talent that we've got in town. So, doing the work. So, and open up for discussion, if you guys want to have any discussions on that right now.
I'm not prepared to say anything at the
Yeah.
current time. I don't
Okay.
have any.
Okay, that's
If you
fine.
can
Comps
send
or-
the wage information out, that'd be useful.
Okay, I can do that. We've done plenty of research. Okay. Let's go to additions to the agenda. Public Works employees.
Yeah, I had a community member specifically request recognition of the Public Works employees for going above and beyond. I've had a number of comments lately about people impressed with things getting done. The roads, the cracks in the roads are getting sprayed. The creek through town has had mini X go through the bottom of parts of it. Alleyways are getting turned into real alleyways. So I'm personally thrilled at what I've seen from them, and I'm also just responding to a community request to give them some recognition.
Cool. Well, thank you. I'll make sure that if they're not listening already, that gets passed on. So-
Yeah, and I wanna say, I see those guys out there and they're always working. It's nice to see that, so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we got a couple of really good guys.
Yeah, well, yes, just to let you know, I mean, the kudos is theirs. I mean, I do kind of point them in a direction and then they go there and beyond. So they want the city to.
They can see what needs to be done. They don't have to be told.
That's
Yes.
huge.
That's rare.
So. Okay, and then we had the barbecue pit at the park.
Yeah. So I'm not exactly sure which of my two organizations I'm a part of will be the one to address this more. So I was at the park with my son the other day, and we're knocking around the park, and then I see him going over towards the barbecue pit, and I don't really think too much of it. And he's walking on that, and then I notice, the first time I've ever noticed this, there's about a 1.5 foot gap of the panel being over to the side. And I was thinking, in all my years of looking at that, amazingly enough, I'm sure kids have moved the panels, but I don't know that I've ever seen it. But I'm sure it's probably happened. But as a parent, and then also as a councilman of just thinking about liability, because at the end of the day, that pit is there primarily to service the Lions Club. It might have been built by the Lions Club. It's at least partially sometimes maintained by Lions Club, but it's owned by the city. So we've got another one of these situations where probably both organizations could point the finger at the other person and say, well, you do something about it, if anybody even wants to do something about it. But I don't really love the concept of having there be a potential pit for people to fall into.
Is it just that I haven't looked, so.
They were just
the
moved.
panels got
They were just
shifted?
moved to the side, and I moved them back. But it would be nice if we could come up with some kind of a way to lock or secure them in place, and hopefully with something that wouldn't be onerous when we go to use it. I don't know what a good solution.
Hinge each panel and then put a long pin down the other side that locks them in place.
You know,
Or we
something.
could just bolt,
Is it-
put in a
Well,
line bolt and bolt them down.
I was gonna say, is that pit, is it concrete?
It's concrete with brick lined.
So, I mean, could you drill with a roto hammer, drill holes in it?
Probably, but I'm not sure how good the concrete would be because
Yeah,
it gets so
start
hot.
cracking. Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Okay.
How about this? I will make it a work order for them to look at it with that in mind for Public Works, and there are a couple of creative dudes, though.
I think if you just welded loops on both sides all the way down and ran a rod through the whole thing, they can't lift the whole thing.
No.
And did they just move there's one
Yeah,
little
it just
panel?
shifted over to the side.
Okay. Because those panels are extremely heavy.
Yeah,
Well,
lock
they're-
them all together would do the same thing.
Yeah.
They're of various sizes. Is one thing I was noting. Some are
Yeah.
bigger than others, which means some are heavier than others. But also, I mean, it's the pit, and then also what a person could put in there. As I was thinking about, if you were being malicious, you could throw a kid in there. You could do all sorts of things to.
Oh, I've got some ideas.
I think honestly, but they can look at it. But if we had big loops with something big on the ends that they can't unscrew, it basically would be a hole with a big washer on it and a padlock.
Well, even if you took some T-bar or some fence posts and just pounded
Yeah.
it down the two ends and welded loops onto those, then ran a pole all the way across it with just one loop on each one,
Yeah,
you'd
that's
never be able to do anything with it, and it would be secured to the ground.
So I need to add a working welder into our budget.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure somebody in the Lions Club has a welder.
yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Well,
No,
but
they-
even
they
so,
need
we
one.
should have our own
They've-
welder.
They've been begging for one, so,
Yeah, I have no problem saying yes to that.
okay,
That was it. Thank you.
yeah. Okay, we had the cemetery building.
It's there. They got gravel so you can drive into it. I haven't been up there for a couple days. It needs to have gravel along the sides and the back so critters don't get underneath it. And that is just, if they can get the gravel up there, I'm sure I can round up some people to it, because getting on the sides with the wheel tractor or a truck, they're gonna have to drive on tombstones, and that really wouldn't be all that good.
Not
So,
building, no, okay.
How old are they?
Well, and one of them is where I'm going to be. So.
Wow.
Enough said.
Anyway, but they were right up there. They had gravel the same day they had started their gravel thing, and so they've been really good. The Public Works. There's a padlock on it. I have 2 keys, and they will be available for whoever can get into the building.
I was asked to get a locking handle for that
Yeah.
this morning.
Yes, and that's what they said. If you can get a quick set, because that's what the ones are over in the hall, that we can set to the right key that we want,
Oh, okay.
which would be one that quite a few people have. And I'm thinking then the padlock key will just be on the inside, so we don't lose them.
Okay.
Sunshine. Sorry, I'm jumping. You
No,
should tell me what to do.
That's okay. But we're there. So it took a while. Our attorney kind of responded to their amendment to the contract, and he said this reads more like a contract, not an amendment of a contract, and pointed out a number of deficiencies, and I was surprised that their attorney basically said, oh yeah, that's basically what it is. I literally just got their adjusted amendment yesterday, and I haven't had a chance to put it.
Okay.
I saw it as an attachment. I haven't even opened it yet, so that's where that sits.
I was a little surprised by the increase in prices on the last month's bill.
Well, that was what we had approved as council, so, that was part of that discussion, so, yeah. Until the cost of this equipment comes down, I don't see that changing. That's probably gonna happen frequently. Although we've got, with the amendment, if it's the way it's written that they said, we should have some protections against increases, just going bonkers. So, but like I said, I haven't read it. As soon as I read it and I get a quick deal from it, I will distribute it to everybody. Do you want to talk about well one now, or wait until?
We can wait. I guess the one thing I'd comment, the whole water system is kind of it's a mystery to me, and I've lived here for 73 years. So I did talk to an ex-employee who probably has more knowledge about the water system than anybody. And I asked him if sometime he could, at least a couple of us, run us through how it works. And this would be both the waste, the sewer part of it too, and what his suggestions maybe would be for some improvements. I did get a comment from a couple people that live up on that hill that they're having really fluctuating water pressure a lot.
Got it too.
Now, I don't have really fluctuating
So-
water pressure.
So I can say this, at the north end of town, we found and patched a pretty significant leak, although it was a 4-inch hole, but still, in my opinion, it looked like it was putting out as much water as Willow Street was at that one point in time. I mean, it was a bunch. So, and it had obviously been leaking for a while, and it wasn't seen because it's right next to all the grass and everything that goes right into the stream bed. So it just, until it finally blew through, it obviously been leaking for a while. And then just today, they were thanking you guys, by the way, for the vac truck, because up on Lincoln and Fifth, there were 2 places that were leaking badly, and they've got both of those fixed today.
And that would be,
That would be where you're talking.
yeah, that Jim Wilcox and Randy Barron's both
Yeah,
have.
right up there.
And they're at the end of the line. But I didn't understand that the well actually does pressurize the whole system. when it comes on, for some reason years ago, my understanding was there was a pipe that went all the way to the tower, and that was just dedicated from the well to the tower. Scotty told me that now the way it's set up, it pressurizes the whole system.
It does. So
While it's on.
Why it's on, yeah.
Yeah, so when we have to shut off the water up there to repair, there's a water main that runs next to the school. When we shut off the water there to do those repairs, that shuts off the water to the tank.
Right.
And from there, that side of the track, the only thing that's feeding it is what's coming out of the tank. But down here stays pressurized, like you said, from the well, from the motor. And I'm trying to think, no, we actually had to turn the motor off because there was no regulator.
Right.
So it was overpressuring things, which was not good. So
Well,
it didn't have a shut off on it. Because the shut off is at the water tank. That's when it says, oh, I'm full, you can turn off now.
In times past, when we've had to run the underside, like when we had the thing under the tracks, we shunted water to the creek, so that any overpressure would just go down the creek.
Yeah, and there's a pressure bypass in here that goes into what storm system we have. So, but yeah, I mean, the water tank is supplemental, but most of the water pressure that you feel is coming from the pump itself.
Yeah, and I can tell you water pressure is rapidly fluctuating.
Yeah, so,
Like,
Yeah.
I'll turn my kitchen sink on and you'll literally watch it over the course of 5 minutes go high pressure, low pressure, high pressure, low pressure.
yeah. So it's, I mean.
Is what it is in some
It is what it
respects.
is, and I mean, that's the newest, latest, greatest pump that's doing that, so.
Yeah, but it was my understanding in the past that they would actually turn up the pressure during the summertime when people would be watering.
No, they were moving from well one, which is the oldest well and the shallowest well, or the least productive. Doesn't have as much volume output on that pump as this one next door.
Well, no, straight from Scott McGowan, he would go in and actually turn it up so it actually increased the pressure.
Well, that's interesting. There must be a valve or something, because that was not a variable speed motor that came out of there. It was like on or off. So,
Okay.
that does have the ability to be variable, and when we turned it on, we had it going and we had to turn it down because within a week we were blowing all kinds of water lines open.
Well, and that's the comment that I've heard from the city staff is they don't want to turn up the pressure at all because it'll blow lines.
Yeah, I mean, there's 83 pounds right there. That's what it's set at.
And last year I was at 43 at my house, and today I'm at about 31.
Well, and up on the hill, they've got less than that because at some point in time, the water does go up into the reservoir and then feed down through those houses around there. So that's why a lot of the people on the other end of town have to have
Pressure
booster
pump.
pumps.
I got a booster pump.
Yeah. So,
Because it just trickles out, but then you hear that thing boom, and
But
we'll address this some more.
Well,
'cause I got
it's
some more stuff on this. Yeah.
it's mainly just for knowledge. If we're contemplating spending the kind of money on the water system that has been suggested, I would like to be educated about what we have better than I am.
And I've gotten teeny bit of that education, and those tell a fair amount of story too. So, no, I'd be happy to. We could go through it. I think it'd be good for everyone to have a better understanding.
I can tell you, even at the Harrington house, if you're running the sink water and somebody flushes a toilet in the bathroom, the water pressure goes to nothing.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I've got that same problem at my house, but I know that's my own plumbing.
And that would be
that's all
supply.
brand new plumbing. So,
But it's the supply line to it. I have an 1.5 inch line, and we can run 2 showers and flush both toilets, and there's no variance in the water. And have the sprinkler system.
well, and I've got 1.25 inches in my house. I've got a 3/4 inch that goes off the main into the restaurant, which splits out into multiple 1/2 inches.
And that's
And
just not enough supply line to begin with.
Yeah.
Well, so
Okay.
two things in that. There's water into the system and water out of the system. For water into the system, we theoretically are fine, although I want to put a bookmark and I want to hear what Dean White has been here since our last meeting, right?
Not that I'm aware of.
I thought he was supposed to.
Well,
I thought I actually saw him, but maybe I didn't.
no, yes, he has, but it's been a while. I don't think I got the information from him on what his findings were. Or I wasn't paying attention, because we're still we're doing our own
Well, yeah.
measurements. so,
And what are we at right now?
I can't tell you exactly, because I haven't heard any alarms go off when they look at it, so I've just
Sure.
been concentrating on other stuff. So, but they're in there 3 to 5 times a week, checking on the pump and doing a measurement.
Okay. But as far as water out of the system, and there might be other discussions to be had about meters and stuff, but I would renew my suggestion that we need to put meters on main arterials, to hopefully something like quadrants or something to understand, because meters on houses alone is not going to fix this problem, because that if meters on houses would fix the problem, that means that all the city lines are good, and that we're just trying to figure out which house has the leak or which houses are using too much water. But when we have lines, city lines that have leaks in them, we don't know where those are, what's going on, or how much we're losing.
Until they show up.
And so that's why if we can, I know these meters that could do lines that big would be expensive, but I think if we could find a place in the map and see a few choke points, it's like, okay, everything in this section of town goes through this pipe, and we could have a couple things to say, whoa, this section of town is using way too much water, and it doesn't line up with or anywhere close to all of the house meters. So therefore we know, because if the houses are using X and the arterial is showing 2X, we're losing a whole X worth of water in this situation. We got to go look for the leak. And I don't think we need a lot of those, but I think if we had that kind of information, we could do a lot better, because pressure is going to be better in our system if we're not losing it to just pouring it down the drain.
Yes, agreed. And I guarantee there's leaks out there right now that we just haven't seen yet, so. Okay, well, like I said, I got a lot of the mayor's comments, and water system's definitely part of it. Do we want to move on? Okay. We're at the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the consent agenda. David, are you still with us?
Yeah,
Okay, just checking.
no worries.
Any comments?
None.
Okay. All in favor of passing the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
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 All right, thank you. Okay, mayor's comments. Wastewater treatment plant. The recommended adjustments to the plan are still sitting at ecology. I spoke to our engineer last night, and I'm gonna start shaking some trees and getting some motion. All these departments, Department of Ecology, Department of Health, are all massively understaffed right now. So if we don't make sounds, they're just gonna let things go to the back burner. We're not gonna get to the top of the heap. So my goal, I want that thing done this year. So that's my goal. So any comments on that? Okay. The water system plan. Actually, let's hit well number one first. So we have run into some delays. We did get a second opinion on, or a second bid for working on well one to see what was going on from a maintenance point of view. Although it was less, the scope was much different than what the first one wanted to do. Their solution was basically pull the whole thing out, lock, stock, and barrel, look at it, and then see if it fits again. And I'm summarizing, okay? But basically it's to pull it all out and inspect it and see what's going on, and then obviously fix parts and put back in, whereas the process for the other person was to, the one that had the original, was to pull it out piece by piece, slowly, repair, inspect as you go until it was fine and it didn't need anything more, and then put it back in. And it's possible in that case that it's gonna come out all the way too, but it was gonna be, this guy is gonna do it in pieces and parts until he doesn't have to, if that's a possibility. So.
So you're saying the second one's going to do the minimum that he has to, or the first
The
bid?
first person that we presented, and you guys wanted me to get
Yeah.
more bids, he was gonna do it piece by piece, slowly.
So he's gonna pull it all out at once and
This
just,
is the second person, which is Fogel Pump, they were just gonna
Oh.
pull it.
Okay, and Fogel was more expensive?
Was less expensive initially, but it didn't address all the additional costs that were gonna come in afterwards to put it back together and put it back in.
Oh, okay.
Both cases, they were gonna put a camera down the well. I did find out today what the process is for checking the recovery, and it's basically to pump water out and then measure it as it comes back in to see how the recovery rate is. So it's not scientific at all. It was, in either case, it's gonna have to, they're gonna have to pull enough of it out so that we can get a proper airtight down there or some sort of measuring mechanism, because what we have doesn't work. So there's that. Our water system plan, so the water system plan is done by the engineer, goes to the Department of Health. They look at it, they come back with a list of questions or recommendations or things that they want to see changed or clarified. That round one was done. It went back into them. This time, because again, some shakeups in their organization and changes, a different person reviewed it, and we got some additional clarifications and a bunch of brand new ones. Here's the highlights because I had a long conversation with the engineer this morning. There's a lot that has to be done, but here's what's gonna be on our plate. We need to create and adopt, and I don't know what this looks like, so don't drill me on it because I just don't know, a water use efficiency plan for the community. So something to do with what we're gonna do to conserve water. I don't know if that's propaganda, education, I don't know exactly what that looks like, but we have to come up with that as a resolution. We have to start actively working on a sanitary control area around well number 3, because there are private residences within the 100-foot zone. We will have to work with our neighbors to come up with covenants to effectively say that they will do and won't do this, that, and the other thing. In other words, they agree they're not gonna dump a bucket of antifreeze in their backyard when it's in that 100-foot zone. Obvious stuff like that, but we've gotta come up with and work with our neighbors for covenants on that.
how about not shooting fireworks?
You find a way to fit that in, I'm all for it.
They'll just take them up to the park and shoot them up there.
From my house?
This ties into our budget planning. So when they look at our budget for this and for future and for funding and what have you, all of these different components in the city are supposed to largely be sustainable within themselves. We can't let wastewater be subsidizing water and vice versa. Right now, our water budget and our water deals is not sustainable. So we need to look at how we allocate funds, how we charge for things, and get that sustainable, so we're not running, overall picture, we're not running at a negative balance, but right now, specifically in the water area, we're running at a negative. We're gonna be in negative by the end of the year.
Would that have to do with not charging for water use for the last 2 years? No meter reading?
I don't think so. I think it's how we allocate our budget.
Okay.
But it's also what we charge. I think.
I mean, it's just been a flat rate for couple
I
of
don't
years.
think we're charging enough to even, what that implies is we're not charging enough right now to sustain our current water system management and maintenance. So, I mean, between electricity and repairs, it's upside down. So, these are some items that we're gonna work on. That is another item where, right in the memo, they said they're down to one person for all of Eastern Washington to review these plans, and everybody is having water system issues and plans and trying to do stuff, so one person ain't gonna get the job done. This might not get done until the end of the year, but I'm determined to push as hard as I can to, again, have a water system plan, because once we have a water system plan, then we can actually start looking for funding and planning and all the rest of the stuff. Okay. Off to non-infrastructure items. Elections. I don't know if you realized, but we had 2 positions at council that did not get filed for. So we've checked, and the elections department will have a special filing period on Tuesday, August 19th through the end of the day, August 21st. So it's a 3-day special filing period. Where people can go in and file as if it was last week, and then they would be on the ballot for the general election, because that's actually after the primary. I was surprised it's actually after the primary, but maybe they're assuming that they're not gonna have a 3-way contest. So that's out there. Reminder to everybody, the soccer there's basically this last weekend of soccer, and it's gonna be a soccer tournament, which is gonna go Saturday and into Sunday. It's basically a double elimination, so that's gonna be in town. And of course, Saturday is the Harrington Car Show. The Harrington Car Show, which as of this moment, we do not have a road closure permit for it from the DOT.
Yeah, we've spoken to a couple of people. They're gonna see if they can get one pushed through.
Believe me, I've been talking to DOT, it's not a matter of pushing it through. They've already got everything in that they need to do, it's just a matter of getting questions answered. It doesn't really matter, I've spoken to them, they're not gonna cancel the event, it'll happen regardless. So, which is, as mayor and responsible for the safety of the town, that concerns me greatly. In the future, I would like you to consider coming up with, I've spoken to our city attorney, and I've spoken to another part of the DOT today, where we don't have any control over the actual roadway through Harrington, that's state highway. Because we're a city smaller than 30,000 people, we can regulate how the sites are used. So that was a question our attorney couldn't quite answer, if we could do anything at all. What I'm suggesting is that into the future, we come up with a clear resolution that everybody, doesn't matter what organization or who you are, is coming up with, if the roads are being used in Harrington, I would like there to be a consistent, transparent mechanism to do so. Including timelines, not having a road closure permit 3 days before the event creates a challenge for the city. Allocation of resources, public works time. And it's not much, but I don't want to tear them away from something that they're in the middle of to suddenly have to go put signs out. And technically, there's supposed to be signs out as much as 2 weeks before a highway gets closed, notifying them that on this date, this road's gonna be closed. So that's obviously been missed already. In addition to that, part of the reason we're here is because DOT, this is part of the conversation, DOT has not created new rules, but they are enforcing the rules more stringently that they've had. And it's for the same reason that I have concerns. They're covering their butt. They want, you know, there's obviously been something happen, the city's been, or the state's been said, well, gee, you closed off this road and your loud detour led me to some place that I couldn't get my truck out of, or I hit a car that shouldn't have been there. And there's just, the state's gonna be held responsible if something goes wrong in the process. So they're covering their butt. So, so it has gotten more stringent, and I think with that in mind, we should consider putting in timelines that if the road's gonna be closed, that the paperwork is presented to you guys for approval so far in advance that it's reasonable that it can be done and we don't have to have this last minute crunch. So, and this is not the first year that this has happened. It just hasn't really been talked about much. So, and for the record, the June Harrington Vintage Country Fair thing with the chamber, that's already done and approved. It was done in March. So,
Was it the organizers'
it's the organizer's responsibility. The city says the yay or nay.
Okay.
But, so,
The Lions Club better get on
that was all I had.
Well, we don't do the parade anymore, right?
But we do close
So,
up by the bus
with
garage,
that,
between the bus garage and the park.
any public comments to end our evening?
No, but I do know just that Wilbur is having their Wild Bill Goose Days this weekend, and they ran into a similar situation. Their parade and everything is gonna go down Cliff Street rather than State Route 2, and again, it's because of signage and problems with DOT. I've been told that Davenport purchased the correct signage, there's new regulations apparently of what's needed, and so, and I don't know the full story, but
Yeah.
I know that other towns are having the same type of problems
Yeah.
and challenges.
So this is a new thing with
No.
needing
No,
signage?
it's always needed the signage, and that's what, so there was a mayor's meeting, what was that, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago? There was a mayor's meeting, and the sheriff brought this up in his last comments. They're enforcing the signs. Now, we have arrow signs left and
Yeah.
right, but they're looking for the specific specification for that right detour sign or left detour sign. And there's a whole formula, it's universal, you can literally put in this, I need to buy a sign that's a blah, 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 you put it in the internet and you can find out, you can buy it from a shop in Cincinnati, because they sell it to there in Michigan and everywhere. So that's kind of the way it works. And the state has put out, these are the requirements for this signage to go left, right, detour, stop, all the rest, all that temporary signage. And the reason why the scuttlebutt is, the reason why it's Wilbur, right?
Yeah,
Why
it's next
they
weekend.
moved it is because the cost of them getting all that correct signage for themselves was over 10 grand.
Reardon moved theirs too, didn't they?
I don't know if Reardon
I
has
think-
or not, but I know that quite a few
For
towns.
some
are-
reason I read, it seems like I heard or read that Reardon moved Mule Day's parade.
Okay. I've
Upland
not heard
Street.
that yet, so.
So one of the things, and it hasn't necessarily gotten much further, but was kicked around in that meeting, is that all the cities, because most of us have the same issue, we get together, combine what we have, figure out what we need, and then basically collectively as a county, have a set of signage that we can check out and
Yeah,
use.
you're gonna have a problem considering Wilbur and Harrington do an event on the same day every year.
Well, that's very likely, I mean, that's inevitably gonna happen, but it could be the county that expands this signage package kind of thing. I don't know, the fact that all the mayors are basically going, yeah, let's get together and let's come up with a solution for this, so.
I love being a 1% state.
So, anyway, but yes, thank you for that. That's a concern. So,
I'm gonna get rained out Saturday anyway.
I think so.
is it supposed to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Last time I checked, no, there's like
Oh.
a 20% chance of sprinkles and that's it.
I checked today, it was 35.
Don't worry, it's not going to rain out in the fields.
Yeah, you guys have had enough rain.
No, could always use more. This is the time to get it.
Okay,
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn. Thank you.
Second.
Wait,
Oh, no.
we're in discussion. Are we meeting again this month? Do we need to?
Do we need to? I'm comfortable with, I've got plenty of work to do.
I guess my concern is the same one that David expressed last time, is that I would like to get a vote on the well as soon as we can. And I don't know what remaining blockers we have in order to actually accept the
So-
bid.
So we actually re-looked at it, and we've been approaching this as if it was, I'm sorry, we were approaching this as if it was a public works project. If you go through our procurement plan, the standards for a maintenance-related issue is completely different. And it just simply says that we are supposed to have multiple bids and accept the most viable one.
So we otherwise could have voted on it tonight.
No, there's no vote required.
There's no vote
It's a maintenance
required.
project.
Oh, just, okay. So
Because I think
you're,
it's under 50 grand, so it's open to get done.
so you're prepared to accept one of them then?
Yeah, well, in fact, I was hoping to tonight tell you that, hey, this is the solution because we picked one and it was, this is where we got to. And he wasn't able to get here last week, so,
All right, so you don't need a meeting from us in order to be moving forward
not on that point.
Okay. Oh, then I'm fine.
Yeah, I would like you to get on it and get it done as soon as we can.
Yes.
Your discretion which way. And it's a 50% chance of rain according to
Can I do 65?
My Bronco leaks.
Okay, David, is your motion still in play?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion to adjourn at 8:52. Do we have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Gavin. All in favor of closing the meeting, signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you, all. Good night, David. Drive safe.
You too. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.